Okay, this video is going to go over how to connect to the remote hypervisor and install your virtual machine. I will be doing it from the Mint Linux VM. You can do it from the Windows. If you're using Windows, just make sure you connect to the VPN, and then you'll use Mobile Xterm to connect. So from the Mint Linux, we're going to start out by connecting to the VPN. Once we're connected to the VPN, we should be able to SSH into the remote system. Do not forget this X. This X is what allows the X Windows forwarding to work, and we will log in as the student user. The password for the student user is in the learning module in Desire to Learn. Once you connect in, then you're going to run Start Virt Manager. It's going to ask you for a password. That's the same password you entered to log in. And it's going to start this little magical GUI thing. Once you start the magical GUI thing, you're going to find your username and you're going to hit run and then open. I have a demo system I'm going to use. Run, which is the play button, and then open, which is going to open the console window. So I made my window smaller so that it fits better in the recording. But you can make your window as big as you want, and hopefully you won't have some of the issues I'm going to have. So you're going to hit enter. To upgrade your existing installer, upgrading an existing system. It's going to boot the system. I probably should have done this before I started because it's going to take like a minute or two. But anyway, in a minute you'll see that the window is going to have some scroll bars on it that I'm going to have to scroll around some to get to the next buttons and that kind of stuff. But you can make your window bigger, hopefully, and then you won't have these issues. But I kept mine smaller so that the recording wasn't giant. So you're going to skip this. We don't need to test the media. We've been using this media for a while. So now it's going to start the installer. Right, congratulations, it's complete. What? No, that was just showing the window from something else. It's not complete. We haven't even started yet. So here's what I was talking about when I said I'm gonna have to scroll around some. I have these scroll bars that I'm gonna have to use. If you make your window full screen and then make this window big, you should not have those troubles. So next, you got to pick the language, right? I'm not gonna scroll back up to show you the words. You're picking English. Next. Now it's like, what happened? It's all black. Well, this is where the scrolling comes in. I need to go up and go back over to read the words. Basic storage devices. We don't have any special storage, so next. Yes, discard any data. In theory, if you're reusing a disk, you might want to keep the data. So set the host name, set it to server.yourusername, because that's going to be our domain name later on, .lab. And then, very importantly, click on this configure network button. If you don't do that, you're going to have to get in and do the configuration by editing the config files using VI. I'm sure nobody wants to do that. So first thing you want to do is, very importantly, hit connect. If you don't hit connect, the interface will not come up when the system boots. We're going to change the settings to manual. There's a file that tells you what IP address to use. So it's going to be 192.168.240. something. I'm going to use 130. Right? Our net mask is going to be 24. Leave that alone. And then the gateway is going to be 192.168.240.1. Our DNS server is going to be 100.100.100.2. That's a DNS server I have in the lab. And then we'll hit apply. And then we'll hit close, and then we'll hit next. So make sure you configure network. Make sure you set for it to come up automatically. Save yourself some trouble later on. This is the time zone stuff. We're in the Eastern time zone, so that's fine. And UTC, sure. Really care about time zones and stuff personally. Hey, there's nothing on the screen. What do? Oh, I have to use the scroll buttons, right? Root password. I tell you what to set this to in the learning module. Make sure you go check that and set it to what I tell you to set it to. Because if you don't, then I'm going to make you go change it. And you'll lose points if you don't have it set to the right password. So go check that. We could talk quite a bit about file systems and setup. we are not going to do anything exciting on this file system. We're just going to tell it to use all space and it's going to create a default setup. We could, and you probably should, if you're doing this in the production environment, you probably should create a bunch of different partitions and have different file systems on different partitions. But we're not going to do that in the lab. We're not going to encrypt the system, and we're not going to review the layout. We're just going to get it installed for now. We'll go ahead and write changes to disk. All right, so I believe it is about to start installing. So it's installing, and you may have installed Linux before, and you're like, hey, Rich, normally it asks me what packages I want to install at this point. And I would say, yes, normally it does ask you which packages you want to install, but we're installing from a minimal ISO. So what that means is it only has the minimal packages available. So there are no packages for you to pick from to install. So since there are no packages for you to pick from to install, it didn't ask you which packages you want to install. We're going to install software later after we get the system up. So that's why it didn't ask any questions about it. And it's almost done, so we'll just hang out while this finishes because it's almost done. I had actually already created a second system that I was going to like skip ahead to and show you the next steps on that system, but it's almost done, so I'll just stay on this one. But now that I say it's almost done, it's like pausing here at 182 out of 205, so maybe I should have skipped ahead to the other system. All right, so yeah, the other system was demo 2, so we'll go ahead and skip ahead to that one since demo 1 was taking forever. So once it gets done installing, you get this little reboot window, and that's what we're going to want to do. We're going to want to reboot. And now we'll wait for it to reboot, which will take like a minute, hopefully, not too long, because I don't like dead airspace, so I'm going to talk constantly about nonsense while it's booting. So here we go. You can watch as it's booting. It'll tell you what's coming up, I think, as it comes up, and you can see if there are any errors or anything. Oh, hey, no, it didn't show us what's coming up. So there, it came up. You want to log in as root. And then there are a couple things we want to do. First thing we want to do is make sure our network is up. And we do have ETH0 with an IP address, and we want to make sure we can get off of our network. So we're going to ping this IP address. All right, so that works. That's good. That means our network is working. Next thing we want to do is install updates. Yum is the package manager we're going to use in this class. And the way you can install updates is yum update. So when you do that, it's going to try to connect out and see if there are any updates. And there are going to be quite a few updates. So we'll let that finish checking. Like, oh, look at all these updates. So yeah, there are quite a few updates. It's probably going to take a while to install, so I'm not going to make you sit here the whole time it's installing, I don't think. So you go ahead and apply the updates. So yes, we want to apply those updates. It's going to start applying the updates, and once it's done applying the updates, then you will want to reboot the system, and it's going to come back up. So that's pretty much the process of installing. You boot the CD, go through the menu, and then reboot the system, and then SSH in, or actually we're still at the console. But once this is done, actually we can go test that in a second. So this is while this is going, let's go back over to our console window. Right, open a new tab. Wow, that's hideous. I don't like that tab. There we go. Open a whole new window. Make that bigger. Zoom in. So now that our system is up and we are connected to the VPN, we can SSH directly to it. I think my IP was 125. So there we go. So now I have installed the system and it's on the network, and since I'm on the VPN, I can SSH directly to it. If I wasn't connected to the VPN and I wanted to connect to it, I could log in as myself to CNT serve, right? Yes. And then once I was on CNT serve, now I can SSH into my other system. A couple things to remember. On your other system right now, only the root user ID exists. See, here's the problem I have because I've already logged into that IP last semester, so my key, there's a key in my known host file. Line 22. You won't have to do this because you haven't connected to the system before. So now I'm logging in as root. I need to put the root password we set it to. All right, so there you go. So basically, the point was, if you're on the VPN, you can SSH directly. If you're not on the VPN, you can SSH to CNT serve, and then SSH to your system. But you got to be careful, making sure you tell it root when you want to connect to your system. Let's see if my system's done. So yeah, let's see what they say. It wants to import a GPG key. Just go ahead and say yes to that. All right, so it's applying all the updates. I'm not going to make you sit here and watch it apply the updates. The next thing you're going to want to do on your system is you're going to want to add the second disk or have me add the second disk, and then you're going to need to configure your system to use that second disk, and there's a podcast that goes over that. So when this finishes, I'm going to reboot, and then we would move on to do the second disk part of the activity, and that's really the last thing we have to do for this module.